And welcome back. George Norrie with you, Isabella Green with us. Isabella, what would you say of all the things we've talked about is your specialty?
Within the reincarnation cycle subject?
The entire metaphysical area.
Well, I have many different skills, so I don't believe that I really have a specialty. It appears that the information that I have about the afterlife dimension and the reincarnation cycle is becoming my specialty very fast because it's gaining a lot of interest lately since the book. So I would say out-of-body travel, quantum travel, and then also facilitating a really advanced spiritual healing sessions for people.
Do you still astral project?
No, I do not astral project anymore because I have no interest of hanging around the astral plane, but I quantum travel every night. Not in sleep. I get up to do mid-sleep meditations with Kundalini awakening, and I go out of body at will, and I just go into the void, or I surf dimensions. I go into the higher realms.
Were you ever scared?
Oh, well, I'm an adventurous soul. I've done so many things within the Earth reality that others are terrified of. So once I started venturing beyond the veil, I would just remind myself, hey, remember you were doing this and you weren't scared, so you'll be fine.
Since you've been doing this, what has been the most enlightening thing that you've come across?
The void, the state of samadhi, because you literally experience the state of everything, the source consciousness, and also it's a field that has all the answers.
Remarkable. It is truly remarkable. And back to this quantum travel for a moment.
Right.
Can anybody do this?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just a regular person. I wanted to explore because I have explored Earth planes so much that I got bored to death, and then I discovered that I can explore other worlds, and so I taught myself. I learned the technique, the breath work, and the meditative technique, and I started doing it because I said, hey, you know what? I want to see how far I can push myself while still having the physical form.
And
so if I can do it, and I did it within a number of years, then anyone else can do it as well. I'm no different than other people.
And why is the void so important in all of this?
Because this is the true fabric of our soul. This is what we are. When the present-day New Age spiritual teachers say, oh, well, one, this is what they mean, I think, or at least I hope this is what they mean, because this is the fabric of everything. Like Tao Te Ching says, all things are born of being. Being is born of non-being, and non-being is that state where nothing is lacking, everything is present, and at the same time there is nothing there. It's undescribable. You really have to go there to know what it is. But this is the highlight of my life.
Let's go to the phones west of the Rockies. Marcia in Los Gatos, California. Welcome to the show. Hey, Marcia.
George, it's so nice to be with you again.
Sure. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. And Isabella, it's fascinating. I was out of body a lot as a child, but I wanted to express something, a brief series of events and a conclusion, and that is that I was a hospice nurse, and I was with others when they were passing, and especially I cared for my family members, my aunts, my uncles, my parents. And I was holding my mother when she passed, and at the top of her head came out a wisp, and I actually tasted it. And I thought it was so interesting because that, to me, validated that there was weight, or there was actually a material component. And then she, I guess I channeled her in the coming night and day, because she wanted to express something to her caregiver who was not there at the time. So I guess I became a channeler for that purpose of, expressing my mother's thoughts. Mm-hmm. How do you like that, George and Isabella?
I think that's fine. Isabella, what about you?
Well, I think that you experienced that the soul has a fabric. And when she came out of the top of her head, which gives me hope that maybe she went into the void, actually, because coming out of the top of the head, that is usually that directs you into the void. And I know I've heard 2 other stories where people having near-death experiences actually went straight into the void and not into the afterlife dimension. But you becoming a channel for her and conveying the information, this is pretty common, too, from my perspective, because they no longer have a body, but the message is tangible. And especially you having the open heart connection with your mom, that makes you an open channel to her state of being or her consciousness to speak through you.
First-time caller, Phil. We're going to the state of Florida. Hey, Philip, go ahead.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Yeah, I just wanted to share something that happened to me when I was 16. I'm 67 now. But 1972, we were moving this big pump unit at the marina, and the guy, we got too close to a power line, and I got hit with 7,620 volts.
Ouch.
Yeah. 2,000 more than they give you in the Florida electric chair. And it was very weird, because, I knew I'd been hurt, but where I was at, I was in a place that was so black.
Yeah.
And I remember putting my hand up and couldn't even see my hand, but I knew I was separated from God. And I was moving through this blackness. I could feel it going through me, but when I couldn't see my hand, then it became aware to me that I was not in my body.
Right.
But the consciousness was there.
Right. Yep.
And when I asked God to save me, I showed out, help me, because I was scared.
Yep.
I was scared. I never felt that alone and that separated from anybody.
You had a classic near-death experience, Phil, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I cardiac arrest twice. But the one time, like I said, when I came back, my spirit came back into the room they were working on me in. And I remember looking at them working on this guy, and I couldn't recognize myself because I was just burned up. And I looked across just on the other side of the room. I said, if I was over there, I could get a better view. Well, in a second, I was there. I didn't walk over there.
Fair.
I just went.
Right.
And then when I did come back into my body, there was an audible and a physical buzzing noise, loud. And that's when the pain came.
Right.
How long were you laid up, Phil?
Well, I've had about 30 operations over the years.
30?
And I was late. Yeah. Yeah, I had, like I said, it entered to the left side of my left frontal lobe area, went through me and went out my right foot. And like I said, I've been dealing with pain since. I've never had a day without a headache. I've never had a day without pain. There's always some kind of pain. But I know my faith was strengthened because I knew and I know that I have a peace about where I'll go.
Knowing what you've been through, do you think you would have preferred to have stayed?
Yeah. Oh, I told him, well, when I came back after seeing, because, this is the weird thing, too, because when I was back in the room, the colors were, like, brighter than ever. And the only way I could think about it is when they came out with the flat-screen TVs. And you know how when they turned it on, that blue light would come on? And
yeah.
Everybody would kind of lay back and go like, oh, wow, that's wild. Well, that's the way it was. Colors were off the chart. I mean, it's like everything in my brain was clicking. It was all working.
Was it your choice to come back, Phil?
I had no idea. Be honest with you, I had no idea. I think it was my choice. I believe it was what in my faith of God, because I've been ministering to a lot of people afterwards. And it was so neat when I was with my dad. He was dying. He was in a coma. Like he was in a nursing home I used to work in. I knew he wasn't going to come out, but he wanted me with him when he died. And the last thing that happened, I said, well, I want you, Dad, to have peace. And when he took I said, Lord, let him open his eyes one more time so I can at least see him, let him know his prodigal son will be okay. But it didn't happen. But I said, well, go ahead and take him home, please. He took 3 deep breaths, but the last breath, when he exhaled it, it was long. It was a long exhale, which I knew that was when his spirit was leaving.
That was it. Is that normally how it happens, Isabella?
I'm not exactly sure if there is normally, but I know what happened when he went into the blackness, because through speaking with infinite amount of people about their near-death experiences, I've encountered 2 so far, and now 3 that went straight into the void. And for someone who is not familiar with the void, it can be eerie at the beginning, because the human consciousness that is not trained properly we long for objects and people and company and presence or something, something to grab onto, but none of that is present. But if you tune into the state of being, everything is already there, because the void is the blackness. It is that really dark space, but not dark the way we look at the word dark. It's just the energy field that contains everything within itself. So now we have I know the third person who went straight into the void. And my big question that I'm posing now and I'm seeking answers to is why so few go into the void, but they still do, but while the rest go through the whole, talking to the angelic-looking beings or deceased ones and go into a whole different dimension.
And the void sounds scary, but you think that's the place to be, right?
Afterlife, we don't have to go into the void, because there are different options where we can go after life if we bypass the whole reincarnation cycle space. But the void, for me personally, this is the most ultimate space, because I got comfortable there from being in this state for many years. But from the objective or the benefit of the void is once you hop into that dark space, you can actually quantum travel, instantly teleport into any reality you like. And I suggest that people who want to scope the potentials of where they can go after life if they are getting out of the reincarnation cycle, to go experience different worlds. But in my experience, you have to jump into the void first, the dark space, the black field of energy, and from that, just have a trace of a thought where you want to be, and you'll be there.
Let's go to Joe in Monterey, California. Hello, Joseph. Go ahead.
Thank you, George. What a breath of fresh air.
Indeed.
Yes, there is something beyond the void. There's levels of being that spiritual masters talk about, and they're it's almost indescribable. But the scientists, what they talk about quantum mechanics, about locale and non-locale, and this unusual. How do I put it? It's you're everywhere and everything.
Yeah.
And there is levels of consciousness that you can have in the physical world. When she says, "I want to see how far I can go as a physical being in consciousness," that's the goal of every spiritual being. That's what they try to do here. And this world is a scam, George. It is set up so you cannot reach those levels. Why do you think they erase your memory and make sure it's gone when you reincarnate? And they put such a guilt trip on you that you feel, well, maybe I should go back there. I'm so bad and stuff. it's a scam, and ETs are involved with that, and they're negative, they're criminal, and they use us.
You agree with that, Isabella? Go ahead.
Straight out of my book. Straight out of my book.
Same conclusions.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. 100% the same exact conclusion. And ETs, not all ETs, there are higher level consciousness beings that are not involved, and they do not have their incarnation cycles because they do not need to trap souls. But everything below the fifth dimension, across the universe, that are on that same level of consciousness, they all participate in our reincarnation cycle, and they have their reincarnation cycles of their own. And that is what traps souls within our Earth reincarnation cycle.
Next up, Jeremy in North Dakota, east of the Rockies. Jeremy, go ahead.
Hello, Isabella. 19 years, 7 months, and 18 days ago, I was in a nearly fatal auto accident. Immediately, I was in a coma for 2.5 months.
Yeah.
Just before I woke up from my coma, I was under the impression that I was walking up a mountain pathway with my wife at the time, now ex-wife. And as we were nearing the top of the mountain, a bunch of boulders started falling down. I got her into a little cave area, and just as I got her inside, I was knocked off the cliff by a falling boulder. And as I was falling to the ground, I heard a voice from the sky that said, "Jeremy, your tasks were not done yet." What do you think that was?
Yeah.
What might that have been, Isabella?
Well, this is the most common line that everyone who has, or just about everyone, except those who go into the black space, the void, hear when they're having a near-death experience. You're not done yet. You have to go back. This is a standard line, and it's also in my book. And if you hesitate, if you start questioning that, saying, "Oh, but I don't want to go back," then they're going to run you in circles until they find a weak spot, guilt trip you to go back because you didn't do good enough.
Who's in charge of the other side? Is there like a taskmaster there or anybody?
There is a whole group, infinite amount of beings that run their reincarnation cycle. They are shape-shifting beings. I honestly have no idea what they are as the actual beings, who they are, but they can present themselves as anything, and because they're shape-shifting, so they can shift into anything, including just the voice. But like in this case, where this gentleman heard the voice, "You're not done yet." Yep, that's it right there. They're looking at him and they're saying, "Hey, no, go back." But in the most cases, they present themselves as angelic-looking beings, as our ascended masters. I saw Jesus when I had a near-death experience. I know now 100% it wasn't Jesus. Then they also present themselves as our loved ones or anything. If you are in the tradition that you believe in any kind of deity, that deity will show up, but we don't know what's behind. I personally don't know what's behind it.
All right, we're going to take a short break, Isabella, and come back with final calls with you in a moment on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back. George Norrie with you, Isabella Green with us. Isabella, tell me about your work as a hypnotist. How'd you get into that?
I actually do not work as a hypnotist. I call myself a metaphysical specialist or a spiritual healer. I took hypnosis just to check, kind of cross-reference what I do with what they do, because the sessions that I facilitate could be called like a surrogate hypnosis kind of thing, because I am the one having experiences and downloads and observations for the client while the client is in the relaxed state, and all my sessions are remote. And I wanted to see how they do it in hypnosis, because a lot of people told me, or my clients told me, that my work reminds them of being under hypnosis. But my work encompasses a lot of other elements I look at childhood patterns because I believe that we have to start from Earth plane, and we cannot skip that. That's a vital part of our experience. And then into past lives, and then into cosmic karmic connections, and into the multidimensionality of the soul. And there are a lot of elements in my sessions. My sessions are really rich, and people receive a huge package of information about themselves, and also receive strong energetic adjustments when they take my sessions.
What do demons mean to you, if anything?
Oh, these are the earthbound spirits from the lower astral dimension. There's the lower astral dimension is what we call the dark dimension, or the lower dimension, the lower world, and these are just representations of life forms that populate this kind of dimension, and they pop into the earth plane as well, and people know them as demons.
Let's go to the phones. Don in Alberta, Canada, to get us started on the international line. Hey, Donald, go ahead.
Hi, George. Hi, Isabel.
Hi.
When I was young and I arrived on the planet, I thought, no problem, we can be out of here. So I read a book by Lobsang Rampa, and he talked about moving energy and doing the different types of things. And later I came across, I think it was Paul Twitchell. He talked about hewing, or you had that, or humming, kind of the same thing, using the mantra to break down the cloak of consciousness. What I didn't realize, I thought it was like a door. You just flip it open and you're out. And but then I realized it's a series of veils. But I guess my question is like, we got abducted by aliens and sent down here? It doesn't make any sense. Like, why would people actually volunteer to come down to the physical plane? Because on the astral plane, I know there's 180 subplanes between here before you get back to pure spirit, and they can bounce up there. But why do people come down? It's just like, you take the red pill or the blue pill, or get...
Why do they reincarnate, you mean?
Yeah, why do people keep coming back over and over? It's just...
And that's part of your book. You want them not to come back anymore, Isabella, right?
Well, I'm not suggesting that I want them to not come back. I think everyone should decide for themselves. But there is an initial decision that's soul that is not earth-bound originally. Let's say a cosmic soul from a different planet decides to join the earth plane, and earth plane has been sending distress calls out into parallel worlds and other planets for a long time. And so I remember that I felt that I want to go and help and assist this world in distress, and this is how I agreed to pop into Earth incarnation system. But once I incarnated on Earth, that's it. You check in, but you can't really check out. So this is why they keep reincarnating, because they're already within the reincarnation system trap.
Let's go to Chris in Alabama. Welcome to the show. Hey, Chris, go ahead. Chris, you're with us? Nope, there's no Chris. How about Gordon in Plant City, Florida? Hey, Gordy, go ahead.
Hey, George, Isabella, thank you for taking my call. Isabella, you said something earlier about that someone looked like Jesus appeared to you, but you were pretty sure it wasn't him because you didn't think he would want you to come back. And so that begs the question, I was actually going to ask this anyhow. Since Jesus in my religion, I'm a Christian, we think he's godlike. I'm wondering if maybe he's smart enough that he's not coming back. And in fact, Jesus, in the millennium reign, that's a type of reincarnation in our own religion. And Jesus himself described the blind man, and he did not refute the fact that the blind man could have sinned and been there before. And there's this Bible verse that says it's appointed on the man who wants to die and thereafter the judgment. Who's to say that the judgment isn't reincarnation? But Kevin Montague, another guest on Coast, is one of my best friends. Kevin is a Christian and a true Christian. I really like the guy. He thinks that most people don't reincarnate on Earth, but on other planets. And so I wanted to get your take on, could the millennium reign, the 1,000-year period after we live here, maybe be a type of reincarnation? And is it possible that Jesus is one of the smart people that doesn't reincarnate, but that it does happen for some humans? I mean, what role does Jesus play in this right here. I know it's kind of a religious question, but I'm a Christian. I'm not gonna make fun of you or insult you. I'll admit that I honestly don't know. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, like, is it possible that maybe Jesus is smart enough to beat the reincarnation? And is Kevin right to imply that probably most people on Earth don't reincarnate, but on other planets it's the norm?
Well, I really have a lot of respect for Jesus as a figure, as a soul, as an advanced being who came to Earth to do his job and change the course of things and then got out. And because he is an advanced soul, then I believe that he was fully aware of of having a choice and being able to make that choice for himself. And I'm sure that if he decides that he wants to come back, then he can come back again. And so it's all about the freedom of choice. And I believe that Jesus is advanced as a soul, so he is making that choice for himself and made that choice to come here before. As for the other part of your question, I'm not aware of this information, so I can't really answer that. I know for sure I did not see Jesus in my near-death experience because he did not have the frequency, he did not have the consciousness, he did not have even the physical look that I would expect a man from the Middle East to have. And so as I analyzed my experience with the apparition that presented itself as Jesus to me in my near-death experience, I came to the conclusion that there was a shape-shifting being.
Let's go to Jim in Delaware. Get you in here. Jimmy, go ahead.
Hey, George.
Hi, Jim.
No, I don't usually call on shows like this. I was going to ask a question about Jesus. I told Tommy, but I have another question.
All right, go ahead.
Isabella, you mentioned the New Age. This is what this all sounds like to me, because I studied it in the 80s. And the New Age Messiah, I was told I remember used to be Lord Maitreya, the fifth Buddha, which is the Messiah Buddha, I was taught. But however, when I was on a mobile website years ago with the flip phones, a guy came to me and said it's not Lord Maitreya no more. It's this guy named Oliver, and he gave me his last name. All I remember begins with an M. So my question to you, Isabella, do you know who the New Age Messiah is?
I believe all of us are. I don't think that now, in this day and time, we need a Messiah or a guru or a figure that everyone will worship. This is the time on Earth where human beings are invited to explore their own abilities, and that makes us just as good as any Messiah because it gives us access to what we fully are.
Next up, let's go east of the Rockies. Nikki's with us in Columbus, Ohio. Hi, Nikki. We'll be out there in a couple months.
I just heard that. I'm super excited to come. Right around the corner from me.
Super.
Love it. Just had a question for you. So the reincarnation cycle, what is the incentive of keeping souls within that cycle or here on Earth? I mean, there's over 8 billion souls roaming around on the planet. So is there some sort of incentive that they get to keep us in the cycle?
Yeah. I believe, and from what I've observed and collected so far, that the incentive is called loosh. That is energy that humans produce, or vital energy that humans produce during suffering, and all different gradations of suffering, pain, guilt, emotional suffering, physical suffering. And if we zoom out and look at the human experience, even the happiest person is sometimes in pain, is never happy all the time. And so the incentive of the reincarnation cycle keepers is to collect that energy for their own sustenance.
Isabella, Hebrew mythology talks about the guff, which is like a depository for souls. Mm-hmm. Will we ever run out of souls?
No, because souls are made of the fabric of reality. It's not possible to run out of souls. I don't believe so.
Eric, truck driving in Indiana, is now with us. Hello, Eric.
Hello, George. How are you today?
Welcome, my friend. You work late again, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's the same time every day. I start at 1 a.m. and don't get done to about noon. So I'm out here all night, part of the day, too. So
listening to us.
That's right. All I can listen to, yeah. Yes, sir. I got a question, and I had a feeling, kind of a divine feeling when my mother-in-law passed, and we was with her for a long, we was real close, me and my wife and my mother-in-law and my father-in-law, because we lived next door to each other, and we grew up with each other, So when she died, and she was fairly a Christian woman, she was a Southern Baptist, and when she died, it just seemed like I got a divine feeling over me that she did go to heaven. Has your guest ever had any of them kind of feelings when you're real close to someone like that, and you get a feeling that where their soul went?
I would think, Isabella, you've had that feeling, haven't you?
I would guess that she is there, or she is in the upper astral dimension that we call heaven, because this is where majority of the souls end up at anyway. And if we take the work of Preston Dennett, for example, he was visiting his mom through astral projection in the dimension that seemed or felt very much like heaven, the rainbowy and transparent dimension with the music of the spheres. So I am pretty sure that your mother-in-law is in that dimension too.
Isabella, we only got a minute left, and I'd love for you to tell people about your website, if they can contact you, and what you have.
They can contact me at IsabellaGreen.com. If they want to have a session with me, please send me a session request form. And I want to mention about my book, that in my book I offer tools and recommendations, and it's a very short and succinct format. It's an easy read, only 100 pages, and it's not just about the reincarnation cycle, but it's also the tools and recommendations of how to prepare to hop out if this is what you desire.
What is your next project, Isabella?
I am at a number of live events, and literally in September it's Sedona Transcendence Retreat, and then after that in March it's Sedona Ascension Retreat, and after that in April in Sedona Cosmic Awakening Conference. Some of them I speak at, I channel, and I also am given a workshop on the reincarnation trap.
All right, very good. Thank you for being on the show, Isabella. It's always great to have you. Leaving the Trap, How to Exit Reincarnation Cycle. On our next Coast to Coast show, we're going to give you an update on the congressional hearings on UFOs. For Dan Galante, Tom Danheiser, Lisa Lyon, Lex Lonehood, Sean Ladouceur, Stephanie Smith, Chris Burrows, Tim Banal, George Knapp, and Ian Punnett.